Bolovinaka. Good afternoon, members of the media. Today marks the commencement of a significant period on our annual calendar as we usher in the 2023-2024 cyclone season. The release of the 2023-2024 Tropical Cyclone Season Outlook by the Fiji Meteorological Services is a crucial milestone, offering us a glimpse into what lies ahead. During this cyclone season, it has been forecasted that we can expect 2 to 3 tropical cyclones to traverse Fiji's exclusive economic zone, with a possibility of 1 to 2 of them intensifying into severe cyclones, categorized as Category 3 or 5. This data is not just numbers and predictions. It is a vital tool that will guide our planning and preparedness efforts for the next 6 months. As your minister responsible for disaster management, I wish to emphasize the importance of utilizing this information wisely. The general public, communities, households, and individuals should take heed of this outlook to ensure they are well prepared for this new cyclone season. Preparedness is not a task that can be deferred. It is a responsibility we share to protect our loved ones and our communities. Please allow me at this juncture to provide you with a few updates on work we've undertaken to enhance our preparedness endeavors. National Disaster Management Council meeting. As chair of the National Disaster Management Council, or the NDMC, I convened a meeting in September to discuss a number of issues as part of our overall preparation for this new cyclone season. This included the successful National Disaster Awareness Week, which we hosted 2 weeks ago, the anticipatory action for the Fiji cluster system, the recent induction training for Fiji's first ever National Emergency Response Team, or NERT, flood early warning system in the Western Division, and the after action review for deployments to Vanuatu and New Zealand. Following the meeting, we continued work with all council members, stakeholders and partners to ensure we are collectively prepared for future disasters. The Ministry is an operational readiness check, The Ministry is presently conducting our operational readiness checks for all emergency operation centers, equipment and facilities in the 4 divisions. Currently, we have completed 30% of our operational checks for evacuation centers and emergency operation centers, and the commissioners have been instructed to complete all assessments by this Friday. While this is taking place at the sub-national level, we are also conducting a similar check at the national level, involving other government ministries and disaster practitioners in Fiji. The operational readiness check also assesses the systems that are required for effective response operations such as emergency or standby communications, water and power supply, a system for activating the EOCs and its resource organizations, that is the DISMAC structure, stockpiles of emergency equipment and supplies, and suitable storage and training required for civil servants, non-governmental organizations, and volunteers who assist in the EOC in disaster response. All data obtained from this operational readiness check will serve as a baseline for us to assess, evaluate, and enhance Fiji's preparedness for any emergency situation. This, in turn, will significantly contribute to the safety and well-being of our community. Therefore, I would like to make a renewed request to all disaster practitioners in Fiji to kindly update your information using the online survey forms that have been shared on our social media platforms. The deadline for completing this ORC is this Friday. Prepositioning of key strategic assets. As part of our long-standing and essential protocol during any cyclone season, the Ministry has been diligently prepositioning key strategic assets to divisional warehouses. This proactive measure ensures that critical resources and equipment are readily available in the event of a cyclone or any disaster. These assets are strategically distributed across the 4 divisional warehouses to ensure efficient and effective disaster response. I am pleased to confirm that this practice is well underway, and we are making significant efforts to further enhance our capabilities. The ongoing prepositioning of assets is a testament to our commitment to preparedness and resilience building. By continually bolstering our stockpiles and optimizing their distribution, we aim to minimize response times and provide swift assistance to communities in need. Last week, I visited one of our key corporate partners, Punja's factory in Ditoka, as part of our stakeholders' engagement to discuss their state of readiness and response as we head into this new cyclone season. Punja's and a few other companies that are usually engaged by the government for the provision of relief supplies during the disaster period if required. Flood early warning system. Fiji is situated in a region prone to various environmental hazards, including cyclones, floods, earthquakes, and tsunamis. And these natural calamities have, over the years, brought about devastating consequences, prompting the Fiji government to prioritize our disaster preparedness and mitigation efforts. Last week, thanks to a funding support of $1 million from the National Disaster Management Research Institute, the NDMI of Korea, the NDMO was officially handed over the construction of forecasting and a warning system for disaster risk reduction in Fiji project, which saw the installation of flood early warning systems encompassing 4 rainfall stations, 7 water level stations, and 6 warning posts in vulnerable communities located within the Ba province catchment area. One significant challenge we faced in the past was the absence of a flood early warning system at the community level. This often led to people being stranded in their homes during flooding events or taking risks to reach safe areas. Additionally, the lack of such a system puts the lives of first responders at risk, particularly during evacuation or search and rescue operations. This newly installed flooding early warning system will address this challenge by providing the community with its own early warning system. We also plan to extend this project to other divisions, especially those residing in flood-prone areas. Anticipatory action. Fiji is the first country in the region to initiate a pilot program for anticipatory action in collaboration with the United Nations. This program is designed to prevent and mitigate the immediate impact of forecasted unusual tropical cyclones in Fiji. The primary goal of this project is to assess the feasibility of anticipatory action in Fiji and work towards establishing it as a regular operational approach in the country. UN OCHA has confirmed prearranged funding from the Central Emergency Response Fund of up to $2 million if specific pre-agreed triggers for unusual events occur. The Fiji cluster system has made significant efforts to put this support mechanism in place. The anticipatory action framework was developed and approved during the National Disaster Management Council meeting in August. I would like to emphasize that these actions will not undermine community resilience. Instead, they will complement existing efforts and ensure that measures are taken to minimize loss of lives and reduce the exposure to impacts in the aftermath of a disaster. Evacuation centers. We have over 1,000 evacuation centers that play a fundamental role in managing the impacts of natural disasters by offering emergency shelters from the worst impacts of disasters. The Ministry has a list of evacuation centers which is normally updated by provincial administrators and district officers before the commencement of a cyclone season. At the moment, the 4 divisional commissioners are diligently working with their respective provincial administrators and district officers to conduct an assessment of all identified evacuation centers within their divisions. We are actively collaborating with all relevant stakeholders to ensure that these designated evacuation centers are suitable for use should the need arise during the cyclone season. In the past, we have retrofitted certain evacuation centers and plan to continue doing so to enhance community-level resilience. Community-based disaster risk management training. Over the past few months, we have collaborated with our civil society organizations and non-governmental organizations to conduct training on disaster risk reduction at the community level. This training empowers communities to be better prepared in the event of a disaster. They learn life-saving techniques and establish their own emergency committees to lead response efforts at their level. We've also provided them with basic first responder equipment. As we speak, a team is presently in Vonombalawa in Laos to conduct similar training. I cannot stress enough that this government cannot undertake this work in isolation. We require a whole-of-society approach to enhance our preparedness. Families, communities, towns, cities, urban and rural, and the entire nation. It's all our responsibility. National Emergency Response Team. Our preparedness efforts for the 2023-2024 cyclone season has been boosted with the inclusion of Fiji's very own National Emergency Response Team mechanism. As you all are aware, earlier this year, we established our first National Emergency Response Team that promotes interoperability amongst first responders from various agencies at all levels, deploys surge capacity for disaster response within and outside the country, and establishes a mechanism for deploying emergency and disaster risk managers for preparedness activities. This government capability ensures that we don't overburden officials during response efforts and allows us to effectively deploy officers who share common understanding and can work cohesively as a team. We now have 3 levels of disaster training in place. At the community level, we conduct community-based disaster risk management training. At the sub-national level, we have the Work and Emergency Operation Centers. And at the national level, we have the National Emergency Response Team. These initiatives collectively represent the government's commitment to enhancing our resilience across all levels of disaster response. The National Disaster Awareness Week. The NDMO is mandated under the National Disaster Management Act 1998 to conduct the National Disaster Awareness Week annually. I am pleased to once again inform you that we successfully hosted this annual event last month, drawing participation from our key DRR partners and our disaster practitioners from the region and international partners. This year's event was unlike any other, as we placed our emphasis on diverse facets of disaster preparedness and resilience. We educated our citizens with the traditional disaster risk reduction exhibitions, and additionally we organized tsunami drills, urban and marine search and rescue exercises, and oil spill response demonstrations, all of which shared valuable information that can be life-saving during times of crisis. I would like to express my gratitude to all our partners and donors who generously supported this significant initiative. The importance of the role of the media. The role of the media during a cyclone season is absolutely essential in ensuring the safety and well-being of communities at risk. Media organizations serve as crucial conduits for the dissemination of accurate, timely, and reliable information. In the face of a looming cyclone, it is the responsibility of the media to keep the public informed about its progress, potential impact, and the necessary preparedness measures. This information empowers individuals and communities to make informed decisions, plan for evacuations, and secure their homes and belongings. The ability of the media to swiftly and effectively communicate crucial details can be a matter of life and death in disaster situations. The media also plays a pivotal role in dispelling rumors and preventing panic during any disaster. By providing consistent and credible updates, they help quell misinformation and ensure that the public receives accurate information from credible sources. In essence, the media is an indispensable lifeline that ensures that no lives are lost to disasters by helping communities prepare adequately and make well-informed decisions. It is in this same spirit that we'll be looking to our friends in the media to help us raise awareness of the importance of early preparedness during the cyclone season. And just a plea to the general public. Community leaders hold a pivotal role in the safeguarding of their community members during disasters. Your leadership and decision-making skills can be the difference between life and loss. These individuals are not just figureheads, but the backbone of disaster preparedness. As we embark on the annual preparation cycle for the 2023-2024 cyclone season, it is essential to underline the critical responsibility that falls upon community leaders, be it the Turani Koro, district advisory councillors, or leaders within our small settlements. I strongly urge you all to prioritize the readiness of your communities. Your proactive involvement can be a lifeline for the most vulnerable members within your respective communities. Ensuring that every villager and community member is well prepared is everyone's duty, and it is a profound act of care and leadership. It is our responsibility to look out for the weak and the marginalized and ensure that a robust disaster plan is in place. In times of crisis, preparedness truly becomes a lifesaver, and it is through the dedication and action of community leaders that we can strengthen the resilience of our communities, thereby safeguarding lives and property during the 2023-2024 cyclone season and beyond. Before I conclude my statement today, I just wish to emphasize the importance of heeding the warnings issued by the authorities. These warnings are not meant to incite fear, but to empower us with the information needed to stay safe. It is our collective responsibility as Fijians to pay close attention to these alerts as they are issued in advance to prevent accidents and, most importantly, to save lives. To parents and guardians, I urge you to be vigilant and proactive during heavy rain and adverse weather conditions. Keep a watchful eye on your children, ensuring they refrain from swimming in flooded walkways or rivers. The hazards hidden beneath the water are unpredictable and can pose grave risks. Please consider retrofitting or strengthening your homes and ensure your family members are familiar with emergency contact numbers and your family's emergency plans. Preparedness is not an option. It is a necessity, and it is through these proactive measures that we can mitigate the impact of disasters and protect our loved ones. Thank you. Dhanyavad. Navalio.
You mentioned 2 to 3 tropical cyclones predicted for this cyclone season. Number of them expected to be between category 3 and 5. We're seeing intensifying storms now due to climate change. Do you also see that the response is changing for the ministry to better deal with the disasters that are intensifying?
Yes, I think compared to prior to Winston, I believe we are now much better organized. We've now upped our game, and our procedures and our policies and strategies are all now in place to ensure that we are able to tackle category 3 and 2 category 5 cyclones. Our warehousing, our pre-stockpiling of non-food items, and our response strategies in conjunction with our donor partners, as well as those in the corporate sector of Fiji. Like I was just mentioning, I was with Punjas last week in Rotomold. We were all talking about how we could possibly be using their networks as well as their distribution centers and the distribution systems, and in case of disaster, right? when it happens. So I think we are much better placed now compared to before. Naka.
And so with the flooding early warning system that you said has been implemented in Ba, gotten a chance to test it at the moment, or?
Yeah, we were there. It's really working well. We need to keep an eye out for it. There's got a lot of valuable parts that need to be looked after. That's the one issue that we need to ask the members of the public not to tinker around with it, because it's not going to play the role it's supposed to play if people are removing parts like the solar panel and things like that. Because just when we need it and it doesn't work, then it's useless. So we need the public to look after it as their own. It's going to be saving their lives when something happens, especially if it happens at night. But yes, to answer the question, we've tested it and it's really working well at the moment. It's a very impressive piece of gadgetry that high tech, and we were thankful to the Korean NDMI for their contribution. And looking forward to other donor partners if they are willing. Will be very helpful to us in our quest to look after everyone.
And on that note, have you also been in talks with other international partners?
Yeah, those continue. Those are continuing all the time. Some are still in the pipeline. Some are at the infancy stage. But yeah, all those talks are continuing. We've with the UNDRR, when the head was here 2 weeks ago during ENDO, there were some discussions that were going on that maybe later on will shed some more light on that. I think there's a considerable package that we could be happy to publicize later on.
From FBC. If you could just give us an update on the issue in Dikumbia.
Yes, I've just got in touch with the Commissioner North. I think they sent some about 50 cartons of drinking water. Today it's already reached Dikumbia, and by Friday we'll be sending the one of the government budgets to Wonolevu with more water. And also at the same time we're looking at our donor partners, how we can work on having longer term strategies put in place for those the islands on the maritime, in the maritime zone that experience this kind of problems during their dry spells. So maybe we can work on seeing how we can install desalination plants. I think there's one in Watuleria. It's solar powered. It's having some teething problems, but we're seeing once we get that fixed, then we'll try to replicate that and see how we can get that organized for the other islands as well.
So is that situation an isolated incident only on Dikumbia, or is it also seen on other
the other islands as well in Wonolevu that around the Mbuo area, and some also in the northern Madhuat Islands that experiencing the same problem. And the barge will also be going to all those islands as well. I've been talking also with the RFMF to see if they have any desalination plants available, and I'm thankful that the person that I was talking to is the commanding officer of the RFMF engineers, said that they are now receiving equipment from Australia, which also includes desalination plants. It's on board a trailer. That's something that we probably can help us in future coordinate our relief efforts for water shortages around the country. So all the government arms coming together to help in these kind of things.
Minister, sorry, if you could perhaps elaborate on what is the work of you mentioned operational readiness check. What does that entail? And why, we're in the cyclone season already. We could also speak on why it's only 30% done. I'm understanding.
Yeah, no, the 30% is just the reporting protocols that the response times in the coming back to us to see how all the divisions are prepared for the cyclones. But I believe that most of the work has been done already. It's just the responsiveness in the reports that we need to work on. Actually, I believe it's much more than 30%, and we're looking forward to getting the reports by this Friday. and we're sure that it'll be closer to the 95% percentile, I think, by end of the week. And I believe we're already there. We just need the reporting mechanisms to be much better prepared and more fluid in the way that they respond.
That would include the ongoing assessment of the evacuation centers?
Yeah, that also involves that. Yeah.
Okay. So they've, I mean, in previous cases, in previous disasters, a concern that have been raised is the lack of, taking into account women's concerns. I mean, I understand that you have engagement with those communities. How much of that involves or have taken into account these concerns of women and children?
Yeah, that's something that we continue to do. It's work in progress. We can't say that it's done 100% at the moment. At the moment, all we're trying to make sure of is that the evacuation centers are retrofitted. They are strong enough to be able to withstand the cyclones. Then the next stage is to make sure that all those headings are all ticked and all the boxes are ticked, including the looking after the women and the children. It's well lighted. Those are the kind of things that to provide security for the weekend. Also to make sure that the disabled and all the weekend who can't look after themselves, to make sure that those are all tied into their disaster management plans, that they are looked after first before they look after themselves. Those are the kind of things that we're working on with the communities to make sure that it's all handled and nothing left out.
So we've also had cases of sexual violence occurring in this. What measures do you have or have you?
Well, all we can do is work with the Turani corps to make sure that there's awareness that these kinds of things happen. You can never say that it's going to be done. It's going to be covering everything. We try our best to make sure that it does cover the 100% of all the concerns that we had in the past. And we continue to work with the Turani corps and the provincial councils to make sure that these things are taken care of, as well as the other rural communities, not only in the Tauke areas, but also in other rural communities, that those are also taken care of. But these topics are also very seriously taken by us as well. So that's why we discuss these issues with all the Turani corps and the district advisory councillors for them to know that we are looking at this very seriously, and we want them to be taken care of. So if you're going to be asking for evacuation center support in that area, then we have to look after this segment of the community first. Okay, the women, the children, nursing moms, all that kind of thing, and that the toilet facilities for them are also looked after, and that there's very good lighting to make sure that the security covers the women and the children as well, and to make sure that at night all the Yangona drinking is taken outside or somewhere else, not inside, and to disturb especially those who are nursing young children, babies, that they are not disturbed. So those are the kind of things that we've addressed, and it's being taken very seriously at every level of the community. But thanks for raising that, Naka.
Sir, the 200 Fijians that are still living in tents at the number of how exactly is your team ensuring that they will be catered for during this second season?
Well, at the moment, the mitigation works are starting for the place where they're going to be relocated to. So we were thankful that that's done. The geotech survey has been done, so wherever they're going to be relocated to is going to be safe. So that's the phase one. And once the mitigation works are done, all the drainages are done, so the trees that need to be cut are cut so that it doesn't cause erosion and all that, then I think the first 5 houses are going to be constructed. But as far as the community is concerned, all we have to do, all we can do now, if the cyclone path crosses the area where they are in Triketi, then we'll just have to take them to evacuation centers at the moment for the time being, and to look after whatever they need to be looked after to be stored and locked away, and the Commissioner North will be responsible for doing that. But at the moment, that's all we can do for the time being, to take them to evacuation centers and make sure that they are looked after properly, and all their the belongings are also locked away and secured safely, and then make sure that by at least middle of next year to the third quarter next year, that we should be able to be moving them into their new homes.
Does that include other areas as well in Fiji?
For the moment, it's just Nambabatu, and I think Dongea, I think that's, of course,
Yes.
of course, I am responsible for that. We'll try to provide them the support as well. I think, but of course, is at the moment taking the lead in that. But we are asking Commissioner North to give them all the necessary support that they need.
Just one of the crucial issues in the aftermath of any natural disaster is communication, and especially if communication is cut off from those in the maritime areas. Is the ministry considering doing anything to strengthen that line of communication to the mainland and those who are living in maritime areas?
And I think what needs to be utilized at the moment, and the most sensible, most logical solution at the moment, I believe, is the use of satellites, because you can store it away, and once the cyclone goes past, then you can set it up again. And I think there are a few solutions that are available. One by Telecom. I think there's some by other companies that we're already talking to it. I think the Telecom Authority also, what's this, Elon Musk's company, Starlink, yeah. So that's a very good solution as well. So we're looking at all the solutions to see what will be the best for the islands. Well, I believe that's the most logical one, is to use that at the moment, because you're setting up these mobile phone towers cost about $500,000 or something, so it doesn't really make sense at the moment until government decides to roll out that later on in the year. That's probably the long-term plan. But for the short term, I think that's the most logical solution.
Final question? None? Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Naka. Thank you for your time.